KATC Weather Lab. Here's Eric's forecast.
For the third straight day, Acadiana was blessed with another fantastic day with plenty of sunshine, bright blue sunny skies, and just pleasant temperatures. Hopefully you were able to get out there and soak up some of that sunshine. If you didn't, you're going to have a couple more chances with pleasant temperatures for our Sunday and into the first half of the work week before some changes start to make their way back into Acadiana. But all our attention continues to be on the state of Florida, where our family, friends, and neighbors are getting ready for Hurricane Irma, and you can see it now continuing to spin just to the north of Cuba. But we are starting to see a little bit of that northwesterly turn starting to take place as it heads up towards the Florida Keys. You can see already heavy rain bands making their way across the Keys and into the southern tip of Florida, even producing a couple of tornadoes back towards the Homestead area earlier this afternoon. But the good news is it looks like the severe weather has come to an end, at least for the time being. But you can see heavy rain continues to make its way sweeping across the southern tip of Florida, and eventually they're starting to see the winds as already hurricane force winds have made their way into the Keys up to around 100 miles per hour. Storm surge is starting to pile up on the eastern half of that area, causing some life-threatening conditions, and things are just going to continue to get worse as we go through the coming hours, as we're about 7 to 8 hours away from it making landfall in the Keys and then moving up the west coast of Florida. So here's the latest and a wider picture of what we got. You can see Irma is a massive storm, 350 miles wide, going from the outer bands from either side, and you can see it has taken up a large area, and all of that is going to continue the ride up Florida. The reason it's going to make that northerly turn is we continue to have this outer flank. That's that front and subtropical ridge that's going to help push this up to the north, and that's what we're starting to see happen right now. As we take a closer look, you can see in the last several hours, you start to see that eye make its way up to the north a little bit, and it's going to continue on that northwesterly track and head right up for the Keys as we go through the overnight hours. So right now, Hurricane Irma has 120-mile-an-hour winds, so they have downgraded 5 miles from the last couple hours. So that is some good news as it continues to interact with the mountains of Cuba, kind of weakening it a little bit. But as it moves over these warm waters, it should maintain that strength. And you can see it has slowed down a little bit as well. Now just moving off to the northwest at 6 miles per hour. Earlier it was up around 9, 10. So it is beginning to slow down a little bit, but it should continue to move a little bit quicker as we go through the overnight hours and kind of moves out over the waters. You can see hurricane warnings in effect for the entire state of Florida, as they're all going to feel the brunt of this storm as it moves up the west coast. You can see making landfall in the Keys early tomorrow morning around 7, 8 o'clock with winds up to around 125 miles per hour. Strong storm surge in that area, and then it moving up the east coast by Sunday evening. That's when it will make its landfall right around the Fort Myers, maybe closer to the Tampa area, as a strong Category 3 hurricane. So there's still a major hurricane as it makes its second landfall with the state of Florida, and then beginning the weekend as it heads up towards the Panhandle down to about a Category 1 hurricane with 90-mile-an-hour winds by early Monday morning, and then as it makes its way up into Georgia down to a tropical storm and then eventually tropical depression as we head into Tuesday evening as it gets more up into the Tennessee Valley and continues to weaken and kind of lose some of its seam. So here we go, the one model's depiction of what we can expect here in the coming hours. So you can see by 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, the eye of the storm right over the Keys, heavy rain bands making their way in across a large portion of the state of Florida. So they're not only going to have the dangerous winds, they're going to have some very heavy rain with this system as it moves up the west coast. You can see by 2 o'clock now, that's when it's kind of making its second landfall around the Fort Myers area. Winds up to 100 miles an hour on this backside, so very strong winds causing lots of power outages and some damage across a large portion of Florida, with those heavy rains making its way up. And then as we head into Sunday evening, getting closer to the Tampa area, still maintaining, as you can see, with all those isobars, a strong hurricane at that before it slowly begins to weaken once it starts making landfall as we go into Monday morning up towards the Panhandle, and then pushing into Georgia as we go into late Monday afternoon. And that's when it kind of starts to lose a little bit of its steam, but still some very gusty winds, anywhere from 60 to 90 miles per hour across a large portion of the state of Georgia as it continues to make its way up. Also into the Carolinas, they could see some tropical storm force winds. But the good news is it does look like it starts to lose some of its rainfall. So not looking at a huge flooding event up towards Georgia and the Tennessee Valley, but they're just going to get some of those stronger rain bands at that as it continues to move into Tuesday afternoon. And then maybe as we go into Wednesday, we start to see a little bit of that cloud cover finally wrap around on the backside but with that northerly flow, it should help to keep temperatures rather pleasant as we go throughout the first half of the work week here for us in Acadiana. So as I mentioned, some very heavy rain expected across Florida with Hurricane Irma. As you can see, many locations picking up 5 to 10, with some areas picking up more than that. As you can see, Orlando getting close to the 16, and that's where you see all those tan areas. They could be picking up 15 to 20 inches of rain, which could cause some flooding concerns. And then as we also got to go with that, storm surge is going to be a major issue. Anywhere from 5 to 8 feet of storm surge along the Keys as we go through the coming areas. That could imitate and cause a lot of life-threatening concerns. The good news is storm surge on the eastern half of the state of Florida is going down only around 3 to 5, but it does look like it's really going to pick up on the southwestern portions, anywhere from 15 to 20 feet above sea level. And you can see that's mainly south of the interstate, which is good news. We have a few communities there, but a large portion of this is the Everglades, and they're the ones that are going to see the worst of it. But I think the one town that gets the brunt of this storm is going to be up towards the Fort Myers area, where they could see also 10 to 15 feet of storm surge with the system as we go through the next 24 hours or so. So definitely a lot to talk about with Irma, and hopefully it kind of stays on the weaker side, but definitely going to cause some damage out there for Florida. Out in the Atlantic, we still have Hurricane Jose, Category 4 of 130-mile-an-hour winds. It remains a strong Category 4 before beginning the weekend a little bit in the coming days. But you do see it kind of does a little bit of a loop. It's going to get stuck out there thanks to Irma. And then as we go later into the weekend towards next weekend, we could maybe see it start to maybe make its way towards Florida. But it does look like it'll stay out of the ocean and not really be a concern for us. But it is going to be a system we will be tracking in the coming days. Back closer to home, good news for us. Another pleasant night, temperatures into the 60s, and then tomorrow afternoon with plenty of sunshine making our way into the mid-80s. So comfortable night out there, below average temps in the low 60s. We will continue to have a little bit of a light breeze out of the northeast. Tomorrow, more of the same. Plenty of sunshine. The winds picking up a little bit out of the northeast, 10 to 18 miles per hour of temperatures in the mid-80s. And that good weather just continues for Monday and Tuesday. As I mentioned, clouds start to return by Wednesday, and then we start to heat up towards the second half of the week as we get back into the lower 90s as we head towards next weekend, with maybe a 10-20% chance for a few stray showers. But it does look like a relatively dry forecast over the next 10 days.
Sounds good. Thanks, Eric. Still to come on Acadiana's News Channel at 10. If you love guacamole,